Why do ye linger feed on loathed light, Or liking find to gaze on earthly mould? Sith cruel Fates the carefull threedes unfold, The which my life and love together tide. Now let the stony dart of sencelefle cold Pierce to my heart, and pass through every fide, And let eternal night so fad fight from me hide. O lightfome day, the lampe of higheft Jove, Firft made by him, mens wandring wayes to guide, When darknefle he in deepeft dungeon drove, Henceforth thy hated face for ever hide, And fhut up heavens windowes fhining wide. For earthly fight can nought but forrow breed, And late repentance, which fhall long abide. Mine eyes no more on vanity fhall feed, But fealed up with death fhall have their deadly meed. Then downe againe fhe fell unto the ground, But he her quickly reared up againe. Thrice did fhe finke adown in deadly fwound, And thrice he her revived with busie paine. At laft when life recovered had the reine, And over wreftled his ftrong enemy, With faltring tongue and trembling every veine. Tell on, quoth fhe, the wofull tragedie, The which thefe reliques fad prefent unto mine eye. Tempeftuous Fortune hath fpent all her fpight, And thrilling Sorrow thrown his utmoft dart. Thy fad tongue cannot tell more heavy plight, Then that I feele, and harbour in my hart. Who hath endur'd the whole, can bear each part. If death it be, it is not the firft wound, That launcht hath my breft with bleeding fmart. Begin, and end the bitter balefull ftound. If leffe then that I feare, more favour I have found. Then gan the Dwarfe the whole difcourfe declare, The fubtle traines of Archimago old, The wanton loves of falfe Fidessa faire, Brought with the blood of vanquifht Paynim bold, The wretched pair transform'd to treen mould, The houfe of pride, and perils round about, The combat, which he with fans joy did hold, The lucklefle conflict with the Gyant ftout, Wherein captiv'd or life or death he stood in doubt. She heard with patience all unto the end, And ftrove to maister sorrowfull affay, Which greater grow, the more fhe did contend, And almoft rent her tender heart in tway, And love frefh coales unto her fire did lay. For greater love, the greater is the loffe. Was never Lady loved dearer day, Then fhe did love the Knight of the Red Crofle, For whofe deare fake fo many troubles did her tofle. At laft, when fervent Sorrow flaked was, She up arofe, refolving him to find Alive or dead, and forward doth pas, All as the Dwarfe the way to her affind. And evermore in conftant carefull mind She fed her wound with frefh renewed bale, Long loft with ftormes, and bet with bitter wind. High over hills, and low adown the dale She wandred many a wood, and measured many a vale. At laft fhe chaunft by good hap to meet A goodly Knight, faire marching by the way, Together with his Squire, arrayed meet. His glitt'rand armour fhined farre away, Like glauncing light of Phoebus brighteft ray. From top to toe no place appeared bare, The deadly dint of fteele endangered may. Athwart his breast a baldrick brave he wore, That fhined, like twinkling starres, with ftones moft precious rare. And in the midft thereof one precious ftone, Of wondrous worth, and eke of wondrous mights, Shaped like a Ladies head, exceeding fhone, Like Hesperus among the leffer lights, And ftrove for to amaze the weaker fights. Thereby his mortal blade full comely hung In ivory fheath, ycarved with curious flights, Whofe hilts were burnifht gold, and handles ftrong Of mother pearle, and buckled with a golden tongue. His haughty helmet, horrid all with gold, Both glorious brightnefle and great terror bred. For all the crest a Dragon did enfold With greedy paws, and over all did fpread His golden wings. His dreadfull hideous head, Clofe coucht on the bever, feem'd to throw From flaming mouth bright sparkles fiery red, That fudden horror to faint hearts did fhow, And fcaly taile was ftretcht adowne his backe full low. Upon the top of all his lofty crest A bunch of hares difcoloured diverfly, With fprinckled pearle, and gold full richly dreft, Did shake, and feem'd to daunce for jollity, Like to an almond tree imounted high On top of green Salinis all alone, With bloffomes brave bedeckt daintily, Whofe tender locks do tremble every one At every little breath, that under heaven is blowne. His warlike fhield all clofely covered was, No might of mortal eye be ever feene, Not made of fteele, nor of enduring brafle, Such earthly metals foone confumed beene, But all of diamond perfect, pure and cleene. It framed was, one maffe entire mould, Hewne out of adamant rock with engines keene, That point of fpeare it never piercen could, Nor dint of direfull fword divide the fubftance would. The same to wight he never once disclofe, but when as monfters huge he would difmay, or daunt unequall armies of his foes, or when the flying heavens he would affray, for fo exceeding glon his glistering ray, that Phoebus golden face it did attaint, as when a cloud his beames doth overlay, and silver Cynthia waxed pale and faint, as when her face is stayned with magique arts conftraint. No magique arts hereof had any might, nor bloody words of bold enchanters call, but all that was not fuch, as feemed in fight, before that fhield did fade, and fudden fall. And when him lift the rafcall routs uppall, men into ftones therewith he could transmew, and ftones to duft, and duft to nought at all. And when him lift the prouder looke fubdew, he would them gazing blind, or turne to other hew. Ne let it feeme, that credence this exceeds, for he that made the fame was known right well to have done much more admirable deeds. It Merlin was, which whilome did excell all living wights in might of magique spell. Both fhield and fword and armour all he wrought for this young Prince, when firft to armes he fell. But when he died, the Faerie Queene it brought to Faerie Land, where yet it may be feene, if fought. A gentle youth, his dearely loved Squire, his fpeare of heben wood befide him bare, whofe harmfull head, thrice heated in the fire, had riven many a breft with pikehead fquare. A goodly perfon, and could menage faire his ftubborne fteed with curbed cannon bit, who under him did trample as the aire, and chaft, that any on his backe fhould fit, the iron rowels into frothy foam he bit. When as this Knight nigh to the Lady drew, with lovely court he gan her entertaine. But when he heard her anfwers loth, he knew Some fecret forrow did her heart diftraine, which to allay and calme her ftorming paine, Faire feeling words he wifely gan difplay, and for her humour fitting purpofe faine, to tempt the caufe it felfe for to bewray. Wherewith emoved, thefe bleeding words fhe gan to say. What worlds delight, or joy of living fpeach, Can heart fo plunged in fea of forrows deepe, And heaped with fo huge misfortune reach? The carefull cold beginneth for to creepe, And in my heart his iron arrows fteepe, Soone as I thinke upon my bitter bale. Such helplefle harmes it's better hidden keepe, Then rip up griefe, where it may not availe. My laft left comfort is, my woes to weepe and waile. Ah Lady deare, quoth then the gentle Knight, well may I weene your griefe is wondrous great, for wondrous great griefe groaneth in my fpight, While thus I heare you of your forrows treat. But wofull Lady, let me you entreat, For to unfold the anguifh of your heart. Mishaps are maystred by advice difcreet, And counsell mitigates the greateft fmart. Found never helpe, who never would his hurts impart. O but, quoth fhe, great griefe will not be told, And can more eafily be thought then faid. Right fo, quoth he, but he that never would, Could never, will to might gives greateft aid. But griefe, quoth fhe, does greater grow difplayd, If then it finds not helpe, and breeds difpaire. Difpaire breeds not, quoth he, where faith is stayd. No faith fo faft, quoth fhe, but flefh does paire. Flefh may empaire, quoth he, but reafon can repaire. His goodly reafon and well guided fpeach So deepe did fettle in her gracious thought, That her perfwaded to difclofe the breach, Which love and fortune in her heart had wrought, And faid, Faire Sir, I hope good hap hath brought You to enquire the fecrets of my griefe, Or that your wisdom will direct my thought, Or that your proweffe can me yield reliefe. Then heare the ftory fad, which I fhall tell you briefe. The forlorn maiden, whom your eyes have feene, The laughing stocke of fortunes mockeries, And the onely daughter of a King and Queene, Whofe parents deare, whileft equall deftinies Did run about, and their felicities The favourable heavens did not envy, Did fpread their rule through all the territories, Which Pison and Euphrates floweth by, And Gehons golden waves do wafh continually. Till that their cruel curfed enemy, An huge Dragon horrible in fight, Bred in the loathly lakes of Tartary, With murdrous ravine and devouring might Their kingdom fpoyled, and country wafted quite. Themfelves, for feare into his jawes to fall, He forced to castles ftrong to take their flight, Where faft embarr'd in mighty brazen wall, He has them now 4 yeares befieged to make them thrall. Full many knights adventurous and ftout Have enterprized that monfter to fubdew. From every coaft that heaven walks about, Have thither come the noble martiall crew, That famous hard atchievement ftill purfew, But never any could that